What's going on, guys? So today's video is going to be a continuation on yesterday's video. If you missed that video, I was basically saying that I got this magnetic strip and I originally wanted to put it in my kitchen to hang some miscellaneous kitchen knives, but ultimately I didn't find a good spot for it, so I came up with the idea of putting it in my office and just hanging some random knives that I've been using and EDCing for testing, right? So I used this for a while and had absolutely no problems. It was working out great. I thought it was a good idea. It's extremely convenient to just reach over and grab a knife and, fold it, put it in my pocket, carry it throughout the day, use it. When I get home, pop it right back on the bar. It was very easy, very open, and convenient. That was the whole idea, is it was convenient, right? And in addition, it's in my office, so on my computer and stuff, I can glance over and, gawk at all the knives. So it's kind of a display thing as well. So I thought this is a pretty good idea. I used it. I had no problems. I made a video on it. That was yesterday's video. But right off the bat, people were saying, hey, no, not a good idea, Jeff. You shouldn't do this because of this. You shouldn't use it because of that. And I started reading the comments, and my initial thought on the thing was, well, I had none of these problems. All the problems or concerns people had, I didn't have. So in actual testing, the testing phase of using this idea or utilizing this idea was fine. But the more comments I read and the more concerns I saw people have with this, I realized that it's not going to work for everyone, and it's probably not a good idea to spread, all over the place. You know what I mean? For some people, for certain applications, this is totally fine, and some people will take this idea and use it and be totally fine with it, like I have. However, I want everyone to know the possible concerns with it, and ultimately, because of the potential for problems, I will say it's a fail, and you probably shouldn't do it, okay? Now, this is specific to hanging folding knives on this magnetic bar. If you were hanging fixed blade, like the initial purpose of this was to hang some kitchen knives, I still think that's totally fine. And if you like the idea for your kitchen knives, then go for it. But for the first thing, let me break this down into some different categories. The first concern people had was safety. Okay, the idea that you have a bunch of open blades on your wall. What if you rub into it? What if it randomly falls off and stabs your cat? That's a legitimate concern. Okay, that's fine. My initial reaction to that is, well, use some common sense. You know what I mean? Don't rub into the wall of knives. And also, like, I have one little section here. If you filled a room, if you did 30 of these things in a row and the whole wall was filled with knives, maybe that's a little bit more dangerous than what I'm utilizing it for. But then, another concern was kids. If you have kids in the house, maybe they're going to go grab one and, who knows, chase their sister around the house with it. Who knows? It's a potential problem. Again, if you use some common sense, if you put this where it's not accessible to children, just like anything else in your house that's dangerous or potentially dangerous, or you have talks with your kids, hey, don't grab my wall of knives, it's a different concern. It's not a problem that I have because I don't have kids right now, but I do understand it, and plenty of parents out there, sometimes it's a little easier just to keep the dangerous stuff away than to just wish for the best. You know what I mean? So I get it. I get that. The above safety, the biggest concern, I think, was people who realized that magnetizing the blade of your knife can have other potential problems. So the first thing I wanted to do was test to see if this was actually magnetizing the blades, and it is. It's very slight, but it is in fact magnetizing these. So if I just grab one and show you, I've repeated putting this on and off. I probably took this on and off maybe 100, 200 times, miscellaneous knives, maybe more. I have a stainless steel split ring here, okay? But if you see, it will stick to it, okay? So this is not as strong as a magnet, but some of that magnetism has magnetized this blade now. So things that are metal that will stick to magnets will stick to this blade, okay? Some spots are a little stronger than others. This is a very light piece of metal. This is not going to hold up another knife or anything. It's not like it'll, stick to other stuff like that, but it is in fact magnetized. Okay, that was an important note. That was the first thing I wanted to see and check for. Let me grab one of these. Again, this has a coated blade. You can see it's slightly magnetized. All right, so if that was your first question, is it going to magnetize the blades? Yes, it does in fact do that. So the follow-up questions to that was, number one, someone had mentioned that if you put knives with different bearing systems, it's going to slow down the bearings and it's going to make it gritty or just not function properly. I can tell you, with testing and experience, that has not been true. This one right here, this rake, this is a P128. Alright, this one has a bearing system in here. It's just as smooth as when I got the knife. So I did not find that the magnetism here had affected that. Let's see, here's that ring, so you can see it is magnetized, the blade, but it has not affected the pivot at all. As far as being smooth or gritty or anything like that, it's super smooth. I don't feel any resistance. You know what I mean? The idea that the individual little ball bearings are magnetized so they're kind of sticking together, they don't want to roll or whatever, but that has not been a problem. Okay? So that issue is not there, but some of the other issues are still there. So the next issue people had was with the blade being magnetized, or the possibility of it being magnetized, which we now know has been confirmed, it does do that, was getting metal filings and shavings and stuff like that, metal dust inside the pivot, and slowing down the action on it and causing some problems in that sense. I would say that would really only be a concern if you were in a metal shop. If you work in a metal shop, and you literally are around metal filings and dust and shavings like all the time, yes, that would be a concern, absolutely. For the rest of us, the only time you're probably going to come in contact, your folding knife or EDC, whatever, is going to come in contact with metal filings and shavings and stuff outside of a machine shop would be when you're sharpening your knife. Okay, when you're sharpening your knife, you're creating that. That being said, it doesn't matter where you're storing knives. If you own folding knives and you sharpen them, you have that same problem. I don't think that magnetizing the blade is going to create more of an issue of pulling in, all those filings down into the pivot section. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a little, I don't know, maybe it's a little deceiving. To say this is magnetized, like I said, these are going to have a little bit of magnetism to them. Alright? But it's not like there's a magnet inside your pivot area, so when you're sharpening your blade, it's being sucked in, all that dust and stuff. It's a potential of getting in there regardless. It doesn't matter whether you have magnetism on your blade or not. So, yeah, it's a concern. It's a possibility. Is it going to increase the issue of getting crap inside your pivot when you're sharpening your knives? Maybe. Maybe slightly. So I can't say it won't, you know what I mean? But I don't think it's a dramatic difference. Like I said, with the magnets being a little bit weaker on the ends, people were worried about them falling. Just randomly falling off the wall. What if it falls into your foot? In my particular situation, it's away. It's nowhere near where I'm rubbing on the wall or walking by there or anything like that. So even if they all fell off at once, no one would get hurt. I happen to have a dog that's smart enough not to come over and roll around in them. But that being said, yeah, there's potentials for problems out there. There's potential for scratching. A lot of people said that same thing too. I would never do that. It's going to scratch the blades. It's going to take the coating off the blades. It's going to put scratches in your mirror polished edges. In the first video, I said the same thing. Yes, there's potential for scratching your blades. If you're using some common sense and you're actually putting these on here carefully, here's the cold steel con. If I were to slap that on there, I might get a scratch. But if I come in there and just kind of rest it on there, nothing's getting scratched. It's not a problem, But I wouldn't recommend putting expensive, collector's knives on here. These are all user knives. I didn't care if they got scratched up. But even if I do care if they get scratched up, you can use this carefully and not scratch anything. And the last big comment, of course, was right here on the BRS trainer, which is every bit of awesome as you think it would be. And yes, I will do a review on this eventually. So yeah, oh, another thing people said too is like, how are you taking these on and off? You're going to have potential of dropping them if you have to just pinch the bottom to put them on here. That's going to bother me if that's facing the other way. It's not an issue. I have 12 of them on here because I have about 30 knives that I'm currently testing and reviewing. You don't have to put 12 on here. You could put 2 on there. So it's much easier and safer to grab them and manipulate them. Another comment that I saw a bunch of people thumb up or comment themselves is that folding knives are meant to be stored folded. For the record, I store 99.9% of my folding knives in these. These are little like knife collector albums. Okay, these are zipper up like little binders. Open them up, and and then you have knives in them. Okay, just like that. That's how I store my knives. So I wasn't really suggesting that you take every knife that you have and buy 30 or 40 of these bars and start hanging them all around your house. That might have been how some people took the video. It certainly wasn't my intention. My intention was to suggest getting one of these bars, putting a couple EDC things on there that you might want to conveniently be able to grab and put back safely, out of the reach of, you know, children or people who shouldn't be, you know, touching your stuff. That was my original intent or purpose of suggesting this idea. But yeah, I mean, I still store most of my knives folded, and I wasn't suggesting that you only use this for folding knives. You know, like in the first video I said, you can use it for whatever you want. You can put fixed blades on there. It's not specifically like, hey, if you have folding knives, you should not be, you know, folding them up and putting them in a drawer or a case. You should definitely be opening them up and hanging them on magnets. That wasn't really my intent. But again, I understand your concern. That's why I'm addressing them and taking your comments seriously as well. I do really, really appreciate feedback and criticism. I promise you, no one likes to be criticized. And there's a lot of people out there who have great information, but they don't make YouTube videos because they don't want to deal with strangers criticizing them. It's a very tough pill to swallow, but I've swallowed that pill many times over the years, and I've been wrong. You know, I've apologized on video. I've remade videos before because I had misinformation. I'm not perfect. You know, I make mistakes. This was a pretty cool idea, which after getting your feedback, I kind of think, not as cool as I thought. That's basically what it comes down to, is it still works for some people in some applications, but as I mentioned, those possible concerns, magnetizing the blade, possibly having issues with scratching your stuff, you know, if that is something you don't want to do, then don't use this idea. Now this Gonzo knife right here, this is the only one of the bunch that I've sharpened since it's been hanging up here. But I have no issues with it. I sharpened it, I cleaned off the blade like I normally would. I wasn't thinking about it being magnetized. I actually didn't know it was magnetized until after I read your comments and started testing these. But it's not gritty. There's nothing like, there's no metal filings in there that I know of. It's still, you know, smooth as it was before. So I don't have any issues with, you know, after or post sharpening with the magnetized blade, you know, kind of sucking in any of that metal dust or filings. All right, and again, this one is a little magnetized. Maybe not as much as the other ones. Oh yeah, if I lay it flat. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but even though I haven't had these problems, it doesn't necessarily mean I won't in the future. It's possible. You know, the concerns, there's enough concerns there for me to basically say, yeah, it was a failed idea. I'll probably utilize this bar some other way, you know, maybe with some flashlights. I started thinking about some other potential issues, you know, like if the blade's magnetized on the folder and I put it in my pocket and then you have your cell phone by it, is that really going to make a difference? I forget whether that makes a difference or not. I think you can have magnets by your phone and it's no big deal. It might throw off, I think, your compass or something. I'm sure you guys will comment down below about it. But it's not, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's not like the most horrible thing you can do. But I can't really get behind my own idea anymore. After reading enough of your comments about it, I don't want to say this is a great way to store your knives, period. Not specifically folding knives. My first video was about EDC stuff in general. I wasn't saying putting your knife collection on the wall. You know, that wasn't really my intention or suggestion there. It was just, it's a convenient way to grab your keys and knives and stuff every day. But for me, because I test knives to review them, I have a bunch of knives up here, as opposed to just my keys and the Zippo and, you know, 1 or 2 knives. But, yeah, I mean, if you have a good idea for this, this magnetic bar, other than what I've suggested, I'd love to hear your suggestions down below. But I think it's probably best to just leave this as, you know, what its original intended purpose for would be in the shop for some random tools and stuff that you don't care that are magnetized. In fact, if you throw a bunch of your screwdrivers on here, it's even better, because then you'll magnetize your screwdrivers and it'll keep those screws on the end of them when you're working on stuff. But other than that, if you're magnetizing your kitchen knives, it shouldn't affect anything. You know, as far as I know, having a couple regular, you know, kitchen knives hanging on there, it shouldn't be a big deal. People really had, I think, the most concern with specifically folding knives because of the possible issues with stuff getting in the pivots and, you know, things like that. But yeah, I mean, just spreading some ideas. They're not all great, and I think you guys have given me enough criticism for me to say, yeah, I agree with you for the most part. Not everything, but I do agree with a lot of you. So once again, thank you very much to everyone who commented. I don't always have to like a comment, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. I do take your criticism seriously, and in this particular case, it changed my mind. So I'll take these knives off of here and store them how I was storing them before, and I still need a place to put those spare kitchen knives, so I'll probably just put them in here. If you guys think you have a better idea how I should utilize this bar in my office, let me know down in the comments. But that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Take care.